Hello everyone. Well, with our brave lads fighting their way into Europe at the moment, we need to support them as best we can. And one way we can do that is by saving fuel in our kitchen. The more fuel we can save, the more there will be to support our war effort and our brave lads. For electricity and gas come from coal, and coal is needed desperately. If one household gave up eating toast for a year, 200 extra bullets could be made with the fuel saved. Now, if we plan ahead wisely and batch cook, there may be days when we don't need to turn our oven on at all, especially in the warm weather we've been having lately. A tasty and nutritious salad will keep the family fighting fit at home. But it's always nice to have a pudding. Now, this is a pudding recipe which needs no reason to light our oven. And not only are we saving fuel, but we'll be saving food waste as well, because it will be using up any stale tea buns that you have in your house. So let's get started. Now, this recipe, if you've got small tins that you can make it in individual tins, that's very nice. We can therefore serve small individual apple tarts to each guest. However, I'm using a slightly larger tin, so I'm going to use more than one tea cake to make a family-sized apple tart. Now, to start with, I'm going to cut some stale tea cakes into 4 slices each. Use a saw type bread knife to get really thin cuts. So each tea cake cut into 4. Now the next job is to mix up some mock whipped cream. First of all, I'm taking half a pint of lukewarm water, just as we would when we're reconstituting our household milk. And on top of this, I'm going to sprinkle in 5 level tablespoons of household milk. Now, spoonfuls are very difficult to get a consistent amount, but it's good to remember that a level spoonful, whether it's a tablespoon or a dessert spoon or even a teaspoon, is the equivalent to half a spoonful. If you want a complete spoonful, your recipe calls for a spoonful of baking powder and doesn't mention level or a dessert spoon of sugar. Then we should be aiming for a slightly rounder spoonful like that. Now, of course, when it asks for a heap spoonful, we are looking at getting as much of the ingredient on the spoon without it dropping off. So you've got level, a rounded and a heaped spoonful. Try and remember them, and remember that a level spoonful is the same as half a spoon of ingredient. So there's my 5 tablespoons of household milk sprinkled onto the lukewarm water. Make sure it is lukewarm and not cold, fresh from the tap. I'm also going to use a level tablespoon of sugar, sprinkle that on too. Now you could always use a saccharin tablet instead of the sugar, which you dissolve in hot water and then allow that to become lukewarm and add the milk to it without any sugar. I'm also going to put in a couple of drops of vanilla flavouring. And now I'm going to whisk this till it's frothy and resembles whipped cream. Now you could use some thin custard instead of making this mocked whipped cream. Make it to a thin consistency though, not too thick a custard. Now as you can see, I've got a lot of froth here on this household milk, sugar, a little bit of vanilla and lukewarm water mixture. Now I'm going to pop that to the side, get an attractive plate and pop my tin onto the plate. Now to make a larger family size one, slice the bottom layer of the tea cake into 4 and try and fill the bottom of your tin, overlapping if possible. Now on top of that, I'm going to put some stewed apple that I've cooked earlier. Try and use it when it's still warm, as that all helps for the tea cakes to soak up the flavour. I'm also now going to add some of the mock whipped cream on top of the first layer of tea cake. Now I'm going to add a second layer of tea cake and make sure that you try to lay this perhaps where the gaps in the tin were before. Pop that down on top and now add another layer of apple. You could of course use bottled fruit if you have it. It doesn't have to be apple, but I think apple really does taste nice here with the fruit in the buns. I'm also popping another layer, thinnish layer of the whipped cream on top. Now for our third layer of stale tea cake. With another layer of your fruit and of course more of the whipped cream or the custard if you're using custard on top. And finally the last of that tea cake, the top, put on upside down and decorate it with more of the fruit. I'm going to just pop that in the middle and put another thin layer of milk whipped into a mock cream round the outside. like so. Now I'm going to pop this in a cool place and leave it for 1 to 2 hours. Don't worry about your leftover whipped cream. You can pour it on the apple tart dessert when it's finished. Now this has been left for over an hour. I'm going to remove the rim of the tin, but I'm going to keep it on the base and pop that back onto the plate to serve. Let's cut into it and see how lovely our apple tart with no fuel to cook looks like. Delicious. Serve it with the rest of the whipped cream, and there we have a fuelless, delicious dessert, saving fuel for battle.